People think hope is what keeps love alive. That if someone left, went silent, pulled away, chose someone else, or became a stranger with your memories, hope is the soft thing that protects you from breaking completely. So you keep a small door open, not all the way, just enough. You tell yourself you are moving on, but a part of you still listens for the sound of them returning. A message, an apology, a sudden realization, a late night confession, a moment where they finally understand what they lost. And because that thought gives you comfort, you keep it. You call it patience. You call it faith. You call it unfinished business. But there is a strange truth about hoping someone comes back. Sometimes hope does not keep love alive. Sometimes it keeps your life on pause. Most people don't realize this, but hoping they come back is often not about the future. It is about trying to repair the past. You are not only waiting for the person, you are waiting for the pain to be rewritten. You want them to return and make the ending mean something softer. You want them to come back so the abandonment does not feel like abandonment, so the silence does not feel like rejection. So the person who made you feel replaceable can prove you were never replaceable. That is why the hope is so powerful. It is not just, I want them again. It is, I want the story to stop hurting this way. And this changes everything. Because when someone comes back in your imagination, they do not come back as they were. They come back as the version you needed them to become. Clear, honest, changed, regretful, ready, aware. They say the words you never got. They explain the silence. They admit they were scared. They say they thought about you every day. They tell you no one compared. They finally see your value with the kind of certainty you were waiting for the whole time. But the person you are hoping for may not be the person who left. They may be a corrected version of them, a healed version, a more poetic version, a version created by your longing because reality was too painful to hold as it was. This is where things start going wrong, because hope can become a beautiful way of refusing evidence. They have not called, but maybe they are afraid. They moved on, but maybe it is a distraction. They seem happy, but maybe they are pretending. They hurt you, but maybe now they understand. They disappeared, but maybe silence is their way of processing. They chose distance, but maybe distance made them realize, and maybe some of that could be true. Life is complicated. People do return. People do regret. People do grow. But here's what's actually happening. The possibility that someone might come back can become more emotionally powerful than the reality that they are not here. And once possibility becomes more powerful than reality, you stop living in what is happening. You start living in what could happen. That is a very quiet prison. Because from the outside, your life may look normal. You go to work, you answer messages, you laugh with friends, you make plans, you tell people you are fine, but inside, part of you is still facing the door. Waiting for the knock, waiting for the proof, waiting for the person who left to return with a new ending in their hands. That waiting changes you. It makes you half available to your own life. You cannot fully grieve because hope keeps interrupting. You cannot fully open to someone new because the old story still has a reserved seat. You cannot fully choose yourself because a part of you is still waiting to be chosen by them. And this is the hidden cost. Hope can look gentle, but it can quietly delay acceptance. Imagine someone whose relationship ended without real closure. Maybe there was still love. Maybe there was still chemistry. Maybe the ending felt unfinished because no one screamed. No one hated each other. No one clearly destroyed everything. They just drifted. Or one person became unsure. Or someone said, I need time. Or I am not ready. Or maybe one day. That sentence is dangerous. Maybe one day. It sounds harmless. It sounds open. But for a wounded heart, it can become a whole emotional climate. The person starts building a life around maybe. They do not contact them, but they check. They do not chase, but they hope. They do not say they are waiting, but they compare everyone to the imagined return. They keep certain memories polished. They keep certain places sacred. They keep certain songs impossible to hear casually. Months pass, then maybe years. And the person has technically moved forward, but emotionally, a part of them is still loyal to a future that never arrived. The mistake most people make is believing that if they stop hoping, they are giving up on love. But letting go of hope is not always giving up on love. Sometimes it is giving up on emotional suspension. It is admitting that love cannot be lived entirely in imagination. It is recognizing that someone's possible return should not have more power over your life than their actual absence. That is hard to admit, because hope gives pain a purpose. It says, this suffering is temporary. It will make sense later. They will come back and everything I endured will be validated. And without that hope, you may have to feel something sharper. They may not come back. They may never apologize. They may never understand. They may become better for someone else. They may remember you fondly and still not choose you. They may care and still stay gone. That kind of truth hurts because it removes the fantasy that your pain will be redeemed by their return. But not all pain gets redeemed that way. Some pain gets redeemed by what it teaches you when you finally stop waiting. Most people don't realize this, but waiting for someone to come back can become a way of avoiding the self that has to emerge after they leave. Because if they come back, you do not have to become someone new. You can return to the old structure, the old rhythm, the old dream, the old version of yourself who still knew where the relationship fit in your life. But if they do not come back, then you have to change. You have to rebuild the parts of your life that were organized around them. You have to discover who you are without the anticipation of their message. You have to face the mornings without wondering if today is the day. You have to stop introducing their possible return into every decision. You have to meet the person you became after loving them, losing them, and surviving the silence. That is not easy, so the mind keeps hope alive. Not always because the person is right for you, but because hope delays the identity shift. Hope lets you remain connected to the version of life where they still matter in an active way. And sometimes that feels safer than becoming free. This is the deeper psychological mechanism. The mind attaches not only to people, but to unfinished loops. When something ends without the ending you wanted, your brain keeps trying to complete the pattern. It searches for the missing scene, the apology scene, the reunion scene, the realization scene, the scene where they finally say, "I was wrong." And because that scene has not happened, the story feels incomplete. So your mind keeps returning to it. It keeps drafting, rehearsing, imagining, waiting, not because it is logical, because emotional incompletion feels unbearable. But here is the uncomfortable truth. A story can be incomplete and still be over. You may never get the final scene. You may never get the conversation that makes it clean. You may never get the return that proves it mattered. And still, your life is allowed to continue. That is one of the hardest forms of maturity. To stop waiting for an ending that feels satisfying and start living with an ending that is simply real. And this changes everything, because when you stop hoping they will come back, you are not saying they meant nothing. You are saying their absence can no longer organize your life. You are not erasing the love. You are removing the waiting. You are not denying that it mattered. You are refusing to let what mattered become the reason you stop moving. There is a difference between remembering someone and remaining emotionally available to their return. You can remember without waiting. You can miss without reopening the door. You can love what was without making space for what may never be. That distinction is freedom. Because hoping they come back often keeps you emotionally obedient to someone who is not even present. You make choices with them in mind. You think about what they would feel. You wonder what they would think if they saw you. You imagine how they might react if you looked happy or distant or changed or loved by someone else. They become an invisible audience, and without realizing it, you keep performing your healing for the person who hurt you. You want them to see you doing better. You want them to regret. You want them to notice. You want them to feel what they lost. That is understandable, but it is still attachment. Because real freedom begins when your healing no longer needs to be witnessed by the person who caused the wound. That is when you know something has shifted. Not when you stop caring completely. Not when every memory disappears. Not when you become untouched. But when their return is no longer the event your soul is quietly preparing for. So, what should people understand differently? They should understand that someone coming back is not always the victory it seems to be. Sometimes people return because they are lonely, because the other option failed, because they miss being loved by you, because they want comfort, because they want to know the door is still open, because your absence finally made them uncomfortable. But returning is not the same as changing. Missing you is not the same as being ready. Regret is not the same as repair. A message is not the same as maturity. A person can come back and still bring the same pattern with them. And if you have spent months hoping for their return, you may be too relieved to notice that they did not return with the growth required to stay. That is the danger. Hope can make any return look like proof. Proof they care. Proof it was real. Proof you were special. But the real proof is not that they come back. The real proof is who they are when they do. Do they take responsibility? Do they communicate clearly? Do they understand the cost of what happened? Do they show changed behavior without needing to be begged? Do they respect the person you became in their absence? Or do they simply want access to the person who used to make them feel safe? These questions matter Because you are not supposed to be a place someone returns to whenever the world disappoints them. You are not an emotional homeland for people who only appreciate peace after creating chaos elsewhere. You are not a backup plan with a heartbeat. And if they do come back, you are allowed to meet that return with discernment instead of relief. That is what hope often forgets. It imagines the reunion, but not the requirements. It imagines the apology, but not the accountability. It imagines the feeling, but not the pattern that would have to change. And without changed patterns, the return becomes another beginning to the same ending. That is why the real work is not making them come back. It is becoming someone who no longer abandons themselves if they do not. Someone who can say, I love them, but I will not live suspended in their absence. Someone who can admit, I miss them, but missing is not a reason to stop choosing my own life. Someone who can hold the memory without worshiping it. Someone who can let the door close without needing to slam it. There's a quiet dignity in that. Not dramatic, not cold, just honest. You stop checking for signs. You stop interpreting silence. You stop treating every date, song, place, and coincidence like a prophecy. You stop making the future responsible for repairing the past. You begin to return the energy to yourself. At first it feels empty, because waiting took up space. Hope gave your mind something to do. Without it, there is silence. And in that silence, grief finally speaks. But after grief speaks, something else begins to appear. Space. Space for new routines, new people, new desires, new questions. A version of you that is not shaped around their absence. A version of you that does not wake up emotionally checking the door. A version of you that slowly realizes peace may be less dramatic than reunion, but far more livable. And maybe that is what moving on really is. Not forgetting, not hating, not becoming immune to memory, but no longer making your life a waiting room for someone else's clarity. Because the person who is meant to meet you properly will not need your life to freeze while they decide whether to return. They will meet you with presence, with effort, with honesty, with the kind of care that does not require you to build a shrine out of absence. And if the old person never comes back, that does not mean the love was meaningless. It means the meaning has to become yours now. Not theirs, not the relationships, yours. You get to decide what the experience teaches you. You get to decide what it awakens. You get to decide which part of yourself you bring forward and which part you finally let rest. Thank you for watching. If this made you think, watch the rest of the videos on the channel. And if you enjoyed the content, like, share, and subscribe, because maybe the reason to stop hoping they will come back is not because they never mattered. Maybe it is because your life still matters, even if they never return.